Hi friends, welcome to Hermes Speaks. I'm Emily with Emily T Astrology, and I am your host for this, your weekly astro check-in, where we explore the current quality of time, as well as bring in some added mercurial insights from Hermes, Mercury, our messenger god of communication and astrology, through the written word and Bibliomancy. This week, we are looking at April 22nd through the 28th. And the big news this week is that Uranus, our revolutionary Promethean god of shakeups, disruption, and change, is moving into Gemini. But for our part today, what I really want to explore is the conjunction between Venus and Uranus at the last degree and minutes of the sign of Taurus. They will come together, and then Venus will, shortly after their conjunction, move into Gemini, to be followed within a day or two by Uranus moving into Gemini. So we are going to explore the conjunction between Venus and Uranus at that last degree of Taurus. We're going to look at it from some kind of keyword archetypal expressions of these two planets coming together. I'm going to offer some quick house topic reminder horoscopes for this conjunction. And then we will, of course, bring in a pull from a book. We'll see what Mercury has to say through the written word with regard to this conjunction. So we always have to talk about the particulars. Venus will conjoin Uranus on April 23rd at 29 degrees and 51 minutes of Taurus, to be followed later that day on the 23rd or into the wee hours of the 24th, depending on your time zone. Venus will move into Gemini, and then on the 25th, Uranus moves into Gemini. So this is a quick little succession between these two planets between the 23rd of April and the 25th. This is the dominant signature of the week, in my opinion. This is not the first conjunction between Venus and Uranus in the sign of Taurus. There have been 7 previous conjunctions between these two planets during Uranus's sojourn through the sign of Taurus since 2019. The first was on May 18th of 2019. They conjoined at 3 degrees of Taurus. Then on March 8th of 2020, at 4 degrees of Taurus. In 2021, it was April 22nd. They were at 10 degrees of Taurus at that time. In 2022, on June 11th, they were at 16 degrees of Taurus when they came together. On March 30th of 2023, again at 16 degrees. And then on May 18th of 2024, they conjoined at 23 degrees of Taurus. So if you want to write those dates down, if you're the journaling type and you want to look back, go ahead and see if anything jumps out at you about those dates. Now, the big one that I want to mention actually occurred last year on the 4th of July in 2025, when Venus conjoined Taurus at 29 degrees and 52 minutes. Does that number sound familiar? That's right, because this upcoming conjunction taking place on April 23rd of this year, 2026, Venus is conjoining Uranus at 29 degrees and 51 minutes. So this last time that these two planets came together in Taurus, it was almost like a precursor. It was a foreshadowing, perhaps, of these two planets coming together, because when they conjoined at 29 degrees on the 4th of July, followed shortly by Venus then moving into Gemini, and then within a couple of days on July 7th, Uranus moved into Gemini for its first sneak peek in the sign, where it stayed for a few months before retrograding back into Taurus. So that is a big time frame that, if you like to do retrodiction, as my friend astrologer Sarah McNeil likes to say, if you want to look back the first part of July, the first week or two of July, and what was happening, what was going on in your life at that time, and see if anything feels like it rhymes or is resonant with this upcoming time, because it is the same exact series of events that's taking place with a Venus-Uranus conjunction at the 29th degree of Taurus, then Venus moving into Gemini, followed shortly by Uranus moving into Gemini. Now, there is something to be said about the 29th degree. It is sometimes referred to as a crisis degree. It is called the Anoretic or killing degree. What it means is that it is the last degree of the sign. It is the last opportunity for the sign to be expressed through the planets and their archetypal energy that is moving within that sign. It often feels like a crisis. It often feels like it is the final moment. So everything needs to come out and be expressed, said, felt, related to, depending on which planet you are talking about. So this is a potent degree that these two planets are coming together at. While we're talking a bunch of dates and numbers and degrees, I also want to bring in that we had an eclipse on February 17th of this year, 2026, at 28 degrees and 44 minutes of Aquarius. Why is this relevant? Well, this conjunction that's taking place between Venus and Uranus is square to that eclipse degree. That eclipse was fairly recent. It was in our most recent eclipse series. It was a moment in our time that was quite loud, loud in the world. And I just wanted to bring that in, that sometimes eclipse degrees are still kind of hot degrees for the period of up to 6 months, or even the entire time that the eclipses are falling in this sign. So just take note of that as well, that we are having this Venus-Uranus conjunction at 29 degrees of Taurus square to the recent Aquarius eclipse degree that took place on February 17th. So just take note of that as well. Yeah? Okay, so let's back up. We've talked dates, we've talked numbers, we've talked degrees. Let's talk about these two planets. What shows up in our lives when Venus and Uranus come together? Well, Venus is the planet of love, beauty, relationships, women, sisters, art, tastes, and preferences. Uranus is our planet of disruption, the unexpected, change, freedom, genius ideas. It is the planet of shakeups and, volatility. And also, it generally is seeking revolution, rebellion, and liberation. So when we have these two planets together, some key phrases that I have come up with and that I've been thinking about are these: a desire for independence, right? Venus is all about desire. Uranus is about liberation and freedom. So a desire for independence, free love, right? Free love. Let's give it. Let's receive it. Let's not have boundaries about the ways in which we are loving. And yes, free love is a phrase from the 60s and the hippie culture, but this does not have to be just sexual love. This can be love of any kind. There's a freeing quality in it. The destabilization or the shakeups within our relationships may certainly show up with Venus, Uranus, the planet of shakeups and change, and the planet of relationships coming together. We might see some shakeups of relationships for sure. Unexpected or revolutionary tastes and preferences showing up in our lives. We might all of a sudden break with our traditional desires and tastes and want to try something eccentric and new and different. Shakeups within women, stories in the news with women, sisters, daughters. We might be hearing some unexpected, some maybe shocking, some news coming out around women that feels destabilizing. We can certainly feel like with Venus and Uranus that we are coming up with inspired, revolutionary, rebellious, or genius works of art or creativity are showing up in our lives. We might get the aha, eureka idea or inspiration to create something that is beautiful, that is maybe eccentric, that is cutting edge. All of these things are very much possible when we see Venus and Uranus coming together in any sign, right? So let's bring in Taurus. Where might this desire for independence, where might our longing for free love, our rebellious and exciting ideas around art and beauty and creativity and tastes, what kind of flavor might they be showing up within? Well, in the sign of Taurus, we're talking about the fixed earth sign. It is a sign that is hosted by Venus herself, where we find the moon in exaltation, the two feminine deities in the traditional pantheon of astrology, the moon and Venus, right? This is a sign that is all about the sensual. As an earth sign, it's about the material. As a fixed sign, it's about reliability, stability. It is where sometimes we find we are resistant to change, or we have a stubbornness. We are committed to our comforts, our creature comforts, our desires, want to be stable and have stasis when they are in Taurus. Our ideas around accumulation, around the material stability and security in our lives. So when we put all of this together, we might be experiencing a destabilizing relationship to our money, our material possessions. We might be experiencing a desire for independence from the ways in which we feel stuck, or the ways in which we feel we have been stubborn or unchangeable around our comforts, around our desires. We may feel like we are coming up with inspired or genius ideas around creativity and beauty and expression within our ideas of accumulation, our ideas of what sensual, not just sexy, I mean the senses, what those sensual ideas are. How can we explore our senses? So that's just kind of like a keyword, quick way of talking about Venus and Uranus coming together in the sign of Taurus, right? And then what happens? Both of these planets, first Venus and then Uranus, move into Gemini, right? And what does that mean? Well, we're having these ideas about free love. We might even be taking actions around our desires for independence or genius ideas around creativity, right? And then they move into Gemini, which is a mutable air sign ruled or hosted by Mercury, and whatever shakeup just occurred, whatever new eccentric taste, whatever freeing idea around love or relationships has just occurred in our lives, then it wants to be dispersed. It wants to be communicated. It wants to be processed intellectually and in the mind. It wants to be shared with other people when it moves into Gemini. So this is kind of our story arc that's maybe taking place this week. So I encourage you, where is this showing up in your life, right? And on that note, let's just give some really brief house topic reminders. I recommend listening to these with your rising sign if you know it. That will correspond to the configuration of your birth chart. Of course, you can listen for your sun sign as well. So if you are an Aries, this conjunction is taking place in your second house between Venus and Uranus at the last degree, and then they will both move into your third house. The second house is where we find resources, income, possessions, material goods, skills. Food can be found in there because it is a resource. Even personal assistance sometimes might show up in the second house. All things that resource you as an individual are in the second house. The third house is where we find siblings or extended family in general, aunts, uncles, cousins, neighbors. It is our local environment. It is where we find the environment of our mind, how we communicate, how we express ourselves, right? So what might be happening for our Aries out there is some shakeup, destabilization, freeing event, idea, or concept taking place around our income, our sense of stability, our security, our material goods with women, perhaps. This is Venus we're talking about, that then needs to be expressed, communicated, understood, maybe communicated to a local environment. I'm thinking, this is a totally random example, but it just popped into my head. Maybe you have been working on writing a grant for your kids' elementary school first, to do a community garden or something like that, right? You find out when Venus and Uranus are conjoined, you've received the grant. This is second house. You have freeing information around money that's coming in. And then when they move into Gemini in your third, you're getting ready to communicate that to the rest of the school community. They're getting some money. You're expressing that. They're going to be able to plant a garden, right? Totally specific, random example, but that's what I'm thinking about. Some shakeup, some new relationship, freeing relationship, rebellious relationship to material resources or resources in general that then needs to be expressed, communicated, and dispersed throughout the local community, your neighbors, or even communicated and processed within your own mind, right? Okay, so if you are a Taurus rising, then this is taking place, the conjunction is taking place at the last degree of your first house, and then is moving into your second house. The first house is the house of you, right? It's the house of the self, your body, your appearance, your character development, your psyche, your psychology, all things to do with you. And, Tauruses, you have been experiencing Uranus in your first house for the last 7 years, right? You are no stranger to this energy, okay? And then they are both moving, Venus and then Uranus, into your second house of resources, skills, material possessions, anything that money, income, all of those things. So this is personal, right? This is the culminating or the crisis or the final expression of an ongoing process that's been taking place for you, Taurus, over the last 7 years of self-transformation, self-actualization, maybe something with your appearance, your body, your health, maybe your ideas around what you love, what you value, what tastes you have radically changed over the last 7 years. And this is the final exclamation point on that, right? Something is shifting, something is coming into fruition that's deeply personal around your psychology, how you're developing as an individual. And then it's moving into your second house of resources, and how does that need to be then dispersed, communicated, understood, and processed in a material way in your life. So that's what's on board for our Tauruses out there. If you are a Gemini, then the conjunction between Venus and Uranus is taking place in your 12th house and will be followed by Venus and then Uranus moving into your first. The 12th house is a place of the subconscious. It is our blind spots, our conditioning and patterning that we are not even fully aware of. It is a place of isolation where we need to go and be in retreat from the world. It is kind of a hard to see, hard to define, hard to feel fully expressed in your immediate daily life. It is the place of the unconscious and hidden things. And then this shakeup in relationship or these new creative genius ideas about expression are moving into your first house where they need to be dispersed and communicated and processed and understood. And what I'm really thinking of here, just like something in your subconscious being shaken up, and it's moving into awareness in your first house. Some process, some shakeup in the subconscious mind, our blind spots, our patterning, our conditioning, that is getting a shakeup, and there's something freeing about it that then is, when it moves into Gemini in your first house, you're starting to process it into awareness of who you are. Yeah, this actually feels kind of exciting to me for our Geminis. If you are a Cancer, then the conjunction between Venus and Uranus is taking place in your 11th house, to be followed in quick succession by Venus and then Uranus moving into your 12th. The 11th house is a place of communities, groups, friends, benefactors, allies, social and professional networks, as well as our most deeply held visions, wishes, and dreams for the future. The 12th house is a place of the subconscious, a liminal space of our conditioned patterns, our blind spots. It's a place of retreat, of isolation, and liberation from the world in some sense. What I'm thinking of here for our Cancers is that perhaps there is some shakeup in our communities with our friends. There is some desire for freedom, independence, love, new tastes, preferences, and artistic expression. Maybe there's something going on with a particular female friend. Again, this is Venus that we're talking about. In your communities, that then you need to take whatever shakeup happened within your friends or your networks, your professional communities, then you need to take it into your subconscious. Once they move into Gemini, you need to process it. You need to sit with it. You need to maybe pull back and retreat within yourself in order to be able to fully process whatever just happened. That's what I'm thinking about for our Cancers, that there's a shakeup, something exciting, something unexpected happening in your communities with groups and friends, and then you need to disperse that information in your own subconscious mind and process it at a deep level alone, just for you to kind of process with that. If you are a Leo, then the conjunction between Venus and Uranus at the last degree of Taurus is taking place in your 10th house, and then both Venus and Uranus will pass into Gemini, your 11th house. The 10th house is a place of career, vocation, reputation, public life, work in the world, and calling. And the 11th house is the place of communities, professional and social networks, friends, benefactors, allies, and dreams and wishes for the future. So something is happening in your public life, within your reputation, within your career, maybe for a boss. There's some shakeup that's taking place in this area of your life, what you're known as, who you are known as, what you do in the world. And that is maybe destabilizing, unexpected, shocking, perhaps freeing and illuminating. There's something revolutionary and exciting. There's a new creative project that is suddenly coming into your life that is going to, catapult you in some direction in your career. Something like that's taking place. And then when Venus and followed by Uranus move into Gemini, your 11th house, there is a way that is being dispersed, communicated, understood in your larger communities, within your professional and social networks, within your dreams for the future. Whatever shakeup occurred within your career, within your public life, needs to then be dispersed, communicated, shared within your larger communities. So that's what I've got for our Leos. If you are a Virgo, then the conjunction between Venus and Uranus at the last degree of Taurus is taking place in your 9th house and will be followed by Venus and then Uranus ingressing into Gemini, your 10th house. The 9th house is a place of guiding life principles, beliefs, the higher mind, your search for truth with a capital T. This can also be a place of higher education, professors, gurus, teachers, and guides. And the 10th house is a place of career, public reputation, public life, visibility, work, and vocation, and calling in the world. And so what I'm thinking about for our Virgos is that there is some shakeup, some new taste, preference, idea that's revolutionary, that is perhaps freeing, that is perhaps destabilizing, around your belief systems. Like this feels a little exciting, but maybe a little existential. There's something coming up with your guiding life principles that is being shaken up, that feels maybe like a little bit of a crisis around what your beliefs are, a crisis of faith, particularly with your guiding beliefs around love and relationship, and how that influences your actions and the way that you live in the world. Something around this is being shaken up for you. And then when Venus and Uranus move into Gemini, that needs to be dispersed, that needs to be communicated, that needs to be processed and understood with what that says about the work that you do. When your beliefs are changing, when your principles, your ideologies are having a shakeup, a shift, maybe a crisis of faith, that then needs to filter into the work you do in the world because your beliefs are changing. Can you still approach what you're doing in the world in the same way if your underlying ideologies are shifting, right? So that's what's happening for our Virgos. If you are a Libra, then the conjunction between Venus and Uranus is taking place at the last degree of Taurus in your 8th house. And then Venus, followed by Uranus, will move into Gemini in your 9th house. The 8th house is a place of our debts, the ways that we owe others and what they owe us. It is a place of karmic entanglements, of inheritances. You know, the first thing that came up to me also is that sometimes the 8th house is a place of our fears and anxieties. The 9th house is a place of our guiding life principles, our belief systems, our teachers, our guides, our philosophies, religions, ideologies, political ideations, anything like that is in the 9th house. So I'm actually wondering for our Libras out there, if we're not having a shakeup, a freeing, revolutionary experience of some kind in your fears, your anxieties, the ways that you are anxious about or you are afraid of maybe owing other people, or that what is owed to you is never going to come to you, something like that. That's just what's coming to me around this. There's a shakeup in a relationship to your attachment to your fears, perhaps. You know, this is Libra we're talking about. You guys want things to be fair. You want things to be equal, right? There's some shakeup, some freeing, revolutionary shakeup in your relationship or your desire for independence from attachment or obligations that you have to other people, to other groups. There's something to do with inheritance, and I don't mean that. It could be actual literal financial inheritance, or it could be energetic, emotional, genetic inheritance in some way. There's some shakeup happening there for you, Libras. And then that needs to then, when Venus and Uranus move into Gemini, then that needs to be dispersed, communicated, expressed, processed, understood in your systems of belief. Whatever is happening with your attachments to other people, how is that needing to then be processed and dispersed and communicated, and maybe shifting your belief systems, right? If you are a Scorpio, then the conjunction at the last degree of Taurus between Venus and Uranus is taking place in your 7th house, and then Venus followed by Uranus will move into your 8th house. The 7th house is our primary one-on-one relationships, our spouses, our business partners, our public kind of adversaries, or the person with whom we are kind of in competition with, our clients if you work in a one-on-one profession. And then the 8th house is a place of our attachments, our karmic entanglements, what we owe others, what they owe us, our place of anxiety and worry. And so for Scorpios, I'm wondering if there's some shakeup in your primary relationships. You know, maybe there's some new desire for independence. And again, you know, Scorpios, you guys have had Uranus in your 7th house for the last 7 years. What has been going on for your partner or your idea of partnership or your relationships in general over the last 7 years? This is not new, but this might feel like a punctuation moment, a culmination, maybe a crisis. If you're in a relationship that has felt like it's been on the rocks for a while, this might be the moment, right? That it's like, okay, it's time to go. If you're in a loving, stable relationship, this might be a moment where there's like, wow, we're reaching a new level of freedom, independence. Some new exciting tastes or preferences are coming online with how we relate to each other, right? Something is going on within your relationships that is maybe shocking, unexpected, feels a little destabilizing, but hopefully is fun and exciting and eccentric and freeing and revolutionary, right? And then when Uranus and Venus move into Gemini in your 8th house, whatever just happened within your relationships needs to be dispersed, communicated, understood, and processed within how you are enmeshed with other people, what you owe to other people. I gotta say, for some Scorpios, this might be like we've decided we're gonna get a divorce, and then we need to talk about how we're gonna divide the assets, right? That's like a very mundane, could show up that way. With a Venus-Uranus conjunction and the last degree of the 7th house, and then moving into the 8th house of our entanglement. So that could show up. Certainly not saying all Scorpio risings are going to go through a breakup. Okay, definitely not. But something about what just happened within your relationship needs to then be dispersed, communicated, understood, and processed within how you are entangled and attached to other people. If you are a Sagittarius, then the conjunction of Venus and Uranus is taking place at the last degree of Taurus in your 6th house, and then Venus followed by Uranus will move into Gemini, your 7th house. The 6th house is a place of misfortune, challenges, service, self-sacrifice, the toil and effort that we do on the daily. It's the place of the chopping wood and carrying water, right? The 6th house. This is also a place of employees. If you own a company or if you manage employees, there's something might be going on with an employee there. Or even pets. Small family pets are found in this place too. The 7th house is a place of primary one-on-one relationships, significant others, business partners, clients, adversaries, that kind of thing. So something is coming up. There's some shake up. There's some new desire for independence or genius creative ideas that are coming online, or shifts in preferences, any of that kind of thing. Maybe something that feels like an illness might come up that might feel acute, that some challenge is arising that's shaking things up, and you're like, I'm no longer willing to self-sacrifice so much. Maybe there's something coming up for an employee that came out of the blue that you were not expecting. Maybe something's coming up for a pet, right? I have a big dog and he likes to eat things. Like you have a pet who swallows a sock and you need to take them to the emergency room. Maybe something like that is coming up. Something shocking and unexpected, but maybe it's freeing and exciting and liberating, right? And then that needs to be, whatever that experience was, that needs to be communicated, expressed, understood, and processed within your relationships. Maybe you're having something come up around, I'm no longer willing to give and give and give of myself, and I've been self-sacrificing too much, I've been working too hard, and then I need to have a conversation with my partner about it because I've got to quit my job. And what does that mean for us? Something like that. Something that's taking place in the 6th house that's a shakeup or exciting or freeing or liberating, and that then needs to be expressed, communicated, and processed within your primary relationships. If you are a Capricorn, then the conjunction between Venus and Uranus at the 29th degree of Taurus is taking place in your 5th house. And then Venus and Uranus will move into Gemini in your 6th house. The 5th house is a place of joy, pleasure, and play, self-expression, and creativity. The 5th house is where we find our children. The 6th house is a place of self-sacrifice, effort, and toil. It is a place of maybe misfortune or challenges that arise through which we need to persevere. And so I'm thinking for our Capricorns that some shakeup, something new, exciting is coming up within your joy, your sense of pleasure. Maybe something's happening for a child that's unexpected, that's liberating, that's freeing if you happen to be a parent. There's something exciting. I think that this could be really exciting for some of our Capricorns for a date. Maybe you decide to get your kink on with someone and it's like new and different and it's maybe something you've always wanted to explore, but our Capricorns are like, oh, I'm too serious. I can't be crazy and eccentric in the bedroom. Maybe something like that is happening for you. So then when Venus and Uranus move into Gemini in your 6th house, maybe you went a little crazy, right? Maybe you went out on the town and you partied a little too hard or something like that. Or you had a one-night stand. I don't know, something like that with Venus, Uranus in your 5th house of pleasure and joy, right? And then they move into your 6th house and you're like, oh, maybe I need to now walk back a little bit. Maybe there's some consequences. There's some challenge that's arising because of that. There's something that needs to be communicated, dispersed, understood, and processed through your on the daily work, self-sacrifice, or there's some challenge or illness or something that comes up because you went a little too crazy, right? That's a possibility for our Capricorns out there. But you know what, Caps? You deserve to have fun every once in a while. So I say go for it. If you are an Aquarius, then the conjunction between Venus and Uranus at the last degree of Taurus is taking place in your 4th house. And then Venus, followed quickly by Uranus, will move into Gemini in your 5th house. The 4th house is our place of home, family, roots, foundation, and private life. The 5th house is a place of joy, creativity, self-expression, pleasure, play, and children. So something destabilizing, shocking, unexpected, maybe freeing, maybe exciting, revolutionary is taking place within your private life. At the roots of your life, the foundation, maybe something's going on with a parent that was unexpected. And then whatever that is within your home or family, maybe suddenly you have to move, right? You have to move and it's because something happened with a parent. If you have an elderly parent or a grandparent or something like that, and they need to move in with you. There's something happening with the home, family, roots, foundation, parents that's shocking, maybe freeing, liberating, exciting, creative. Maybe you're like, I am going to redecorate a room. You get an idea and you're like, that's it. I'm going and buying paint, right? It could be something like that. And then when Venus and Uranus move into your 5th house of creativity, children, and self-expression, whatever that was that just occurred within your home, within your private life, within your family, needs to be expressed, communicated, understood, and processed through your sense of joy, through your sense of creativity, with a child, perhaps. Whatever that is that just happened within the home needs to be expressed, shared, and dispersed within your sense of joy, with your children, with your sense of pleasure and play and creativity. Right? It needs to have an outlet. Whatever just occurred in the home needs to have an expressive outlet that's taking place in your 5th house. And last but not least, if you are a Pisces, then the conjunction between Venus and Uranus at 29 degrees of Taurus is taking place in your 3rd house. And then Venus followed by Uranus will move into your 4th house of Gemini. The 3rd house is the place of our mind, our siblings or extended family in general, aunts, uncles, cousins, our local environment, how we communicate, how we express ourselves. And the 4th house is the place of home, roots, family, foundation, and private life. So some shakeup, and this is, this has been an ongoing thing. You have had Taurus in your 3rd house of the mind for the last 7 years. This might be the culminating crisis moment of a shakeup, a revolution within your mind, within how you think, what you've learned, how you process information, how you communicate that information. Maybe there's some new, exciting, eccentric tastes and preferences that are coming online with how you want to communicate, right? Maybe you are, like me. This is me. I'm a Pisces rising, right? Maybe something's going to come up. I'm going to get a whole new idea about how I want the visuals to go for my YouTube channel, right? It could be something as simple as that. What creative new way do I want to express myself that might feel a little freeing or revolutionary, right? And then whatever is taking place within our mind or within our local communities. This could be something coming up. I am on my kid's school board. Maybe there's some unexpected news that comes up on my kid's school board, right? I don't know, something like that. And then whatever it is that's taking place in your third house of the local community, of the mind, how you communicate, how you think, then needs to be processed, communicated, understood in your family, within your home. Maybe you have got some new creative ideas about how you want to express yourself. And then that needs to be taken in your private life within your home. It's like, okay, well, maybe I'm going to do I'm just making this up. I have no idea how this is going to show up exactly. But maybe I get some brand new ideas about how I want to frame my YouTube channel, or if I want to start blog, something like that, Substack. Maybe I'll finally start a Substack, right? And then it makes me go, oh my gosh, could I revolutionize something in my home too? Like that new idea about my preferences and tastes in the mind then wants to be dispersed and integrated into my private life and my home and my family too, right? So that's what I got for you all. Brief house topic reminders, horoscopes for all 12 signs. Okay. Now, as always, we've got to bring in some wisdom, some mercurial insight through the written word. This is Hermes Speaks, after all. And this week I decided to pull from All Fours by Miranda July. I have not read this entire book. I started it, and I have to say it just wasn't for me. I read a few chapters, but the basic premise of the book is a married woman with a child, goes on a 2.5-week road trip, but doesn't actually get to her intended destination. She ends up kind of holing up in a hotel and having an affair. So I was mostly thinking about Venus and Uranus, the conjunction in Taurus, when I decided to pull from this. This is what I opened the book to and read. People were right about the drive home feeling shorter than going the other way. In fewer than 15 minutes, everything around me was alarmingly familiar. In 20 minutes, I was almost home. I was gasping in a strange way, a fish on land. I pulled over. Of course, it wouldn't take me a week to drive home, but this was ridiculous. This wasn't enough time to even plan what I was going to say, how I was going to be. I stared dumbly at my mileage. I watched a YouTube video about how to hack your odometer, but it was too complicated for a modern car. He never even drove my car anyway. I was being paranoid, or paranoid about the wrong things. I glanced at myself in the rearview mirror. How could anyone see this face and not think, that person is in love? But luckily, life wasn't like that. No one would guess that instead of going to New York for 2.5 weeks, I had hidden out 30 minutes away with a boy who worked at Hertz. Okay, so mostly what I hear in this is, is a caution. This is what I hear. This is what I hear in this is a word of caution that the kind of loud, augmented crisis degree, 29 degrees of Taurus, with Venus and Uranus coming together, desire for independence, for free love, revolutionary, shakeups, disruption. We might feel a real strong desire to just kind of like go crazy, right? To go a little over the top, eccentric, to really rebel, really revolutionize and shake up our lives, our relationships, right? We're going to change everything about our loves and what we care about. I mean, she's clearly kind of spinning. She's spinning out here, right? She's already had the affair. Now she's like freaking out. She's watching YouTube videos. It's like, how do I jack the system so that no one knows what I've just done? Like, I feel completely changed. But if someone were looking at my, just she's kind of freaking out. Like, how am I going to explain myself and what I just did? And so mostly what I'm hearing about this is a word of caution that whatever desire for independence, whatever thoughts about free love and shakeups in our tastes and preferences, what we think of as like super new genius ideas coming in around, this is Taurus, around our sensuality, around our material stability, right? Maybe don't take it a step too far. That's mostly what I'm hearing in this, is that you don't want to end up like this character is, where she's feeling paranoid and freaking out, she's spinning, and she doesn't know how she's going to explain herself and what she did. And there might be some consequences to really being like kind of hijacked by this energy, that we maybe are like, ugh, I'm having to walk myself back a little bit, or I'm having to deal with that. Maybe that's just what you need. Right? Like sometimes in Taurus in particular, maybe we've really been stuck. And sometimes you kind of need to go to the extreme to shake things up. No judgment here. Whatever's going on for you, just if you can take a moment and be cognizant of, do you need to take it to that level? Do you need to step over that line? And maybe you do, right? There are some times and situations that that's called for, and other times it was maybe just a step too far that you didn't need to go there. So that's what I get from this passage. A word of caution to really, if you can, try to stop and pause and think a little bit before you go running out and revolutionizing your relationships and life, right? So that is what I've got for you today. I hope this was interesting and fun. If you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, click the notification bell. It really does help me. Drop me a comment. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know, did anything come up around that first week or two of July of last year, 2025, that feels resonant with some of these themes? I'd love to hear. If you are looking for a reading with a professional astrologer, come see me. I'm your gal. This is what I do. It is what I love. You can go to emilytotomer.com if you'd like to book a reading with me. In the meantime, y'all, hang in there. As I record this, and now, even still as this comes to air, there's a lot of Aries energy. There's a lot of courage and bravery, but then also a lot of flying off the handle. So just hang in there. Take it easy. Do what you need to for your nervous system. Uranus and Gemini, we might be feeling some like, woo, things are moving fast. Things are moving fast. We're in an accelerated moment in time. So honor yourself, honor your needs, take care of yourself. And thanks so much for joining me. I'll see you next week.